Who did we just lose?
Melissa.
We just lost Melissa. Just as I go live, Melissa decides to leave. She was offended by, the joke that I just did with her. So, whatever. Welcome back to Chat on Education Live, where I was joking today that Friday. Hey, welcome back, Melissa.
Perfect.
So this is our second one. We decided, if you're watching on YouTube or on Inside Participate on Twitch, you're watching some graphics. We decided to plus up the production quality slightly, but you still got to deal with me, so I'm sorry. But we do have to make up for it. Some great people joining us tonight from the team. Diana McGee's with us, Audrey Thornborough, Melissa Pilikowski, and the one and only Glenn Irvin, who just got off from singing on Facebook, which is always fun. You should always go watch Glenn sing songs to you. He'll sing in Spanish if you ask him to.
Yep. Usually I do sing, even if you don't ask me to.
It's very exciting. It's always fun, and he'll sing Mr. Jones. What is your go-to? If you had one song, your desert island, one song to sing, what is the one song that rules them all, Glenn?
Probably La Bamba. I mean, as far as I've played it so many times that it's it's like second nature. So I don't even get nervous. Actually, I used it, Mike, as part of one of my presentation keynote thingamajiggers, and it actually helped me to not be as nervous.
Wow.
To actually play it and sing it, and then after that moment I was like, oh, I'm good. It was weird. You would think it would be the exact opposite, but I've played it so many times for open mic nights and in front of my students, whatever it might be. That's the song to calm me down. Maybe it's just a technique though. Sing along with your audience, and then it calms the nerves, and you can just go on with your presentation.
Yeah, I like it.
That's a theory.
I like it. How's everyone's week's been? Anyone got any cool stories to tell? No? That's our lives right now. Silence.
We were extended for the stay-at-home orders for another few weeks. So, we're still stuck at home for a while longer.
Yeah.
But
that's in Minnesota. So, yeah. There was I have no doubt that Ontario won't go back to school this year. They haven't announced it, but there's no way.
That they won't go back.
They won't.
They won't go back this year? No, Kentucky's not going back this year.
Kentucky's not going back. Okay. The Nebraska, I saw a national news story, Melissa, that it may have been actually in your town, but I don't think it was. I don't think it was valid. I don't think.
Can I make a joke about Nebraska?
But I'm serious. It was a national news story about a mall. Maybe it was Omaha. I can't remember which one.
Was it Lincoln? Because I think
it could have been. But
okay. Anyway, go ahead.
It was not a mall. What are those called? The outlet stores.
Yeah.
And they did an outlet store story where they showed how they're going to open up, and then they're going to keep people away from each other. They have marked spots of where you stand to be able to enter the store next, because you can only have one set of customers in at a time or something like that. So, but they actually had these little footprints marked out onto, kind of you do at an outlet where it's outside, you're coming in from the outside. It looked really, smartly organized, but I was thinking about, when you're in an outlet, there's a crap load there's usually a lot of people all around, kind of thing. So it's like, you're going to have like 20 people at this.
Is our new future where we just hate being around other people, like in general? We're like, you are like 6 inches from me. You need to step back. Like 10 years from now, we still have this like phobia of being anywhere in any proximity to people. Like, is this our new lives?
It was kind of my life before.
I was going to say, that's my husband. I mean,
That is so funny you said that. My husband said the same thing the other day. He's like, I kind of like this, like not having to be around people.
Not feeling the social distancing removes social obligation.
Yeah.
It works for a lot of people. Like I mean, as far as like it this hasn't affected, but I mean, I know that some of us, we actually like to be in proximity to each other, you know?
Yes.
And I was just thinking about different cultures too. Like in Latin America, there's a lot of affection that's shown by actual physical interactions with people, hugs, lots of hugs, lots of like you hold people's hand, kissing, you know, as far as on the cheeks, with friendships. And when you remove all of that, that's got to be really
different.
Devastating. Yeah, to kind of what your normal interactions are with people. In the United States, I think we're always just in general the comparison between the two. We're of course standoffish than you would, you know, as far as especially specifically with Latin America.
Huh. Hilarious. I was thinking, I was telling, there's a funny story I won't tell, but it was related to when Melissa and I met. Melissa, do you remember where we met?
Wasn't it at ISTE Chicago?
Yeah, it was at the Classcraft thing.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
We made the quests, and then I ended up sitting at a table with Alice and Steve, and we hung out for quite a while that night. That was fun.
We did. It was a good time, and who knew what our friendship would become?
Who knew? Hey, so we brought questions today. We brought guiding topics.
Awesome.
I don't really want to call them questions, just thoughts related to the podcast. So we had the podcast. You should go listen to it if you are watching this recorded on YouTube or on you know, the stream, on the podcast stream, because I think we're going to put this one out. You should stop listening to this one and go listen to the podcast and then come back.
And then, come back.
It's okay. Yeah, just come back. But I mean, you can go listen to that and then come back.
You'll be wildly confused if you don't listen to the podcast first.
Sure. Hashtag more downloads. So we have ideas. Look at this. We even have graphics. Look at us with our production quality. So, you know, earbuds. I loved this question. And so I weighed in on this, and Glenn weighed in on this. So this is really for Audrey and Diana and Melissa. I'm super interested in their answers to this question. So we talked on the podcast. You know, Twitter was good to us this week, with kind of guiding ideas and whatnot. And so this question is whether we're the same on Twitter as we are in real life. You know, who wants to take a stab at that first? I'm interested in your thoughts, all three of you.
I totally will, because I thought about this ever since I read the blog first, and then I listened to the pod. And for me, my gut reaction was the same as Glenn's, that I'm probably like 80 to 90%, but there's probably a 10 to 20% that, first of all, people probably just don't want it. Like, it's just not healthy for people to see. You know, especially when I'm stressed, you know, I can easily go down that route of negativity. And I'm not a fan of negativity on social media. There's a difference between bringing awareness to a troubling issue that's out there versus venting about something your school is doing, or something about your child's teacher or someone. Right. And I kind of just try and err away from that, because not only it's just other people, it's not good for them to hear me complaining social media, and it's not good for me. So it's kind of just a personal health thing too. So yeah, I'm more like Glenn, that I'm probably, you see that positive side of me on social media, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely that human side that the more you get to know me, the more I reveal that, or the dark humor side, that's there too. And I know that that's not everyone's cup of tea. So sometimes I try and scale that back a little bit. So I'm gonna go 80 to 90%. So Diana, Audrey?
I'm probably the same. Never really had thought about it. My husband thinks that I think I'm funny, but I'm not. He says I'm not funny. I try to be funny. So if I come across as that's not really funny on Twitter, then that's probably me because I'm not really that funny. But yeah, I agree about not putting things out there that I would say one-on-one to someone in a private conversation in person, but I won't put that on Twitter.
Yeah. For me, I think on Twitter, pretty realistic, I suppose. Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting when I was thinking about this question, and I wasn't just thinking about Twitter, but I was thinking about all of the social media. Yeah. And I think like who I am on Instagram and who I am on Facebook versus who I am on Twitter are different.
Yes, that's so true.
And
well, the platforms are different. Yeah.
The platforms are very different. And then also just the people who I'm friends with or who I follow or who follow me are very different.
Right.
And so like on Facebook, it's a lot of friends and family. And so I really just, share pictures of my kids and, crafts that we're doing, things like that. Whereas on Twitter, I do talk a lot more about, education and
yes.
Hamilton the musical.
Oh yeah.
So I am a lot more snarky on Twitter than I am. I don't really comment on Facebook much to people. So yeah.
That's a good point. The three different platforms. Actually, I don't interact much on Instagram because I don't know how. I don't play that game
so much
very
fun.
well.
Yeah, I don't do the Instagram as well as other people do either.
Yeah.
But on the Hamilton side note, I just have to say I saw a story that there were more people who saw Hamilton in Chicago than they did in New York. And I saw it. Misty was there. I've seen it actually twice, but I saw it in Chicago. So I thought, I was one of those people. It was awesome.
Yeah, same. That's where I went to go see it too.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. Mike's
Mike, your mic.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring up the idea of being different in different social media, because I am different on Facebook than I am on Twitter. I don't know. I'm friends with, I think Glenn and Melissa are Facebook friends. Are you? Mm-hmm. So I actually have. You can change. Oh, look at odd man out.
You don't get to be part of that club.
So,
sorry.
Yeah, no. So my
friend
I only.
I see. Have a look.
I only have. So I have a complicated thoughts about Facebook, and like I'm a lot more personal, so I share a lot more about my family on Facebook. Certainly my politics on Facebook are a lot more front and center. And my politics are pretty out there, like in terms of like people, if you listen to the podcast and hear me talk, then my political leanings already, but I'm more vocal about them on Facebook.
Maybe we aren't friends on Facebook. I'm looking.
It's okay. We can.
She blocked you.
I don't, but I don't have a lot of Facebook friends. I have a very small Facebook group, as opposed to other, like some of these other ed tech folks have use it as another, marketing, so to speak, arm of their whatever. And I've never done that. I get tagged in people's things all the time on Facebook, and I actually remove my tags sometimes because my Facebook is more personal. It's not for business. It's for me to talk about video games and politics and food and nonsense and not. I don't. So I share like the podcast, and I share like the big things happening in my life, like the Minecraft thing and other stuff like that. But I don't share like every single like thing that's going on all the time. I try not to anyways. Sometimes.
But that's why I thought we were friends, because I saw something that you made for dinner the other night. Where would I have seen that?
He posted that on Twitter too.
Okay.
Because one of the things that I did
grill marks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't really use my personal Twitter account. I have a personal Twitter account. I don't really use it. I actually don't even have it on my phone anymore because I don't have it on my tweet deck either. Now that I'm just looking at it right now, I don't have it there either. So I don't use it at all because definitely my personal life and my professional life are very, very one and the same, or very similar anyways, and aligned.
I want to talk about Facebook real quick because I brought this topic up before in the past. I honestly think that, and I mean, and I believe that a bunch of people back up this type of statement, and just personally, that Facebook has actually destroyed more relationships that were actual real relationships than it ever has made me relationship. Like I have a bunch of friends or whatever you want to, as far as on Facebook, and they are all just people that we meet at conferences. Let's call them edu personalities. Let's just call them that. And they'll friend you, just friend them back, whatever it might be. But actual family members and former friends that I used to have in high school and in college, there's been a crazy amount of what I was just joking around as far as with Diana, but literally blocking people.
Yes.
Like people blocking me.
Oh boy.
And those interactions actually, as I start seeing, as I remove myself further and further from Facebook, as far as looking at the political, especially posts, I can see from an outsider that that's actually, it feeds you more. It feeds the beast. As far as the angry
Absolutely.
beast of
Yes.
who we actually are, especially on the political side. And it continues to push us obviously further and further away from each other, as far as ideological beliefs or whatever, my political beliefs, whatever it might be. And we have a hard time now finding things in common. And then it becomes really awkward, everybody. This summer, I had a family reunion, and I hadn't seen a whole bunch of people on my dad's side of my family. And let's just say
you would block like half of them on Facebook.
Let's just say that I've had some really bad. It shouldn't have been on social media, interactions with some people that were in the family, and from years ago. So it was good. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so awkward. We're all going to be in this exact same space. And it ended up not being, it ended up being about the celebration. And thank God, it was only one night that everybody was actually all together, Yeah. So anyway, I was just thinking about the platform itself, how I post pictures of my kids and those types of things, but I really do as little possible as far as interactions on there because of that huge divide that it creates. And actually it makes me feel gross a lot of the time. Like I literally walk away from Facebook sometimes. I'm like, why did I even look at this stuff? And sometimes I go like, if I wouldn't have known that about my friend who I've known since I was like 12 or whatever it might be, and I grew up with them and cherished the relationship.
Yeah.
If I didn't know that, I actually would still be really good friends with them. But now we have this really bad thing, and it sucks. I mean, as far as that has created that type of thing, not only in families but friends and then just acquaintances in general. So that's my spiel about Facebook.
This pandemic or whatever, stay at home, social distancing, whatever you want to call it, it really has brought out the sides of my neighbors who are friends of mine on Facebook, and I'm like, I had no idea that they were like that. So, I mean, we're neighbors. We're not, we don't do things outside of just being neighbors, but I had no idea that they felt that way about certain things. And I'm like, I don't know. You're right. You're so right, Glenn.
And like Glenn, I have, just because we're a small community, and I have had to unfollow people because I found myself having difficulty talking to them face to face, seeing the misinformation, the fake news that they post. I mean, I lost respect for a lot of people that I knew, and my students' parents. And I just had to simply unfollow them. And they still tag me once in a while because some of the stuff they post is, family stuff that I do want to see. But when it was interfering with, like Glenn said, your personal relationships with people, and I couldn't do it anymore.
It's almost like we'd all rather just be acquaintances with people than actually know them.
I know.
That actually, there's something to be said about that. Like, the more that we actually do know about each other, that actually could be a bad thing. That's why, like, only certain people could actually be married to each other, and for an extended period of time. And a lot of people get divorced after a while. It's just like, I can't stand that. I can't stand that voice anymore. That's those things, those whatever it might be. And I'm serious. Like, when you know that kind of surface level, you're like, okay, I really like that part of who you are, and I'm just gonna stay enamored with that part.
Yes.
I don't need to know the whole full picture.
Comment on the Twitch chat. My Twitter account is used solely for the purpose of my professional and YouTube experiences. In so much that I'm a professional, it's accurate. But let's be real. Sometimes we let our hair down. I let my hair down all the time.
Same.
Yeah. It looks nice.
I'm having a great hair day.
Yes. Are any of us really having good hair days anymore, though? I mean, seriously. I think Mike and Glenn are having the best.
Every day
get
is a
affected
good
by
hair day
anything.
for
I
me.
need to have a haircut appointment. I need the salon to be open.
Next Thursday, I have a cut and color appointment.
Seriously?
They are opening. There's a soft
Nebraska.
open
Really?
on Monday in Nebraska. Everyone wears masks. And what was really important was that my daughter turns 16 tomorrow, and she wants to become a brunette because she's tired of people thinking that she and I are the same person from the back.
Yep. I have one of those daughters, too.
So I was like, I really got to get her in. It's her sweet 16, and our stylist was like, absolutely. But yeah, I got in too. So yay
That's
me.
awesome. That's awesome.
So if you need a haircut,
Nebraska right now.
Nebraska. Of course, we can't fly there, so
go to Nebraska.
It's a beautiful drive. No traffic right now.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, it's because nobody lives in Nebraska except for you.
Well, Omaha and Lincoln, where the outlet is, they do. But yeah, nobody lives where I am.
Nobody lives in Nebraska.
You can probably drive like 90 miles an hour. At least you can through South Dakota to get to Nebraska. So it won't take too long.
Yeah.
So we had Tyler Shaddix on from Go Guardian, and it was actually quite a great interview. I don't use the word actually all the time. I hate the word actually, to be honest. My word precision brain of mine, hates the qualifier, but I think I wasn't expecting what we got from him, and some of the information was pretty eye-opening. The stat that's not in this but is I think in our blog post. So if you go to OnEducation.com and go to OnEducationPodcast.com and go to the blog, 60% of kids have 40% of kids, so 40% of devices haven't even been turned on since the start of the kind of the lockdowns, the pandemic, the out of school. 40% of devices, which is unbelievable. But this whole idea here of students logging in at all hours of the day, all hours of the night, and even in the wee hours of the morning, or staying up, frankly, and doing things even on the weekends, is probably a little bit new to most schools and most cultures in classrooms. And this is a good question. What does this mean in terms of flexibility needs from the teacher? I was thinking about this as I was kind of reading it and getting ready for tonight, and thinking that I almost want to reframe this in that everybody needs to be flexible, right? Like in every way. Like
Absolutely.
It's not just about being flexible with your students, even though you need to be, obviously. And this is not the time for like zeros, and if you don't hand it in on time, you're gonna fail. Frankly, it's absolute bullshit. It's so ridiculous that we would like put those types of limitations on our students during this like emergency learning. It's absolutely insane to me. But every teacher also has their own circumstances, their situations that are going on in their lives, their kids need to be taught. You wouldn't believe how many Twitter posts I've seen in the last couple weeks of teachers saying, I can't teach my kids and my students at the same time. I can't. This isn't working for me. So I'm choosing to teach my kids, right? Because they're my children. And
I saw just the opposite. I saw a tweet, and I'm assuming this teacher had younger children, like elementary age, and she said the opposite. She said, my children will be fine because I'll catch them up. So I'm choosing my students.
Interesting.
I've heard that one too.
The fact that we have to be put into the position where we have to make that choice is so crazy.
Yeah,
exactly. World, to be honest.
Yeah, I spoke with a teacher today, and his wife is also a teacher, and he was saying the same thing. Like, he has to take time to like teach his class, and then he has the kids while she goes and teaches her class, and then they're flip flopping, and then they're trying to do school, and it's just, he's like, I'm struggling, and he goes, and we're teachers and we're struggling. I can't imagine the families that are broken or don't have teachers in them to be teaching the kids all this stuff. There's a lot that people are having to juggle. So yeah, flexibility is we have to have it.
I haven't been in the classroom in a couple of years, but I was a high school teacher, and so honestly, students staying up till 2 a.m. doing homework, that's been happening for centuries, right?
That was me. Yeah.
But in the stay-at-home orders, we have seen in our district that a lot of our high school students, they're actually working during the day because they're going in and working at Wendy's or in a
grocery store. These are high school kids that work at grocery stores.
Exactly. And so then they're not doing their homework till late at night. And fortunately, our high school teachers have been very, very, very good about being flexible. And so, yeah, we have to be.
That quote that someone said about how we'll never remember 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we'll never remember how our kids necessarily were like taught or like what they've learned, but they'll remember how they felt. Their emotional scars or lack of them will be apparent way more than what they were taught or not taught during this this weird like 4-month, 5-month period of their lives. We can fix that from an education standpoint. We will, because teachers are awesome and they'll do what they always do, right? We'll figure it out.
Absolutely.
But the emotional scars are gonna potentially live longer than anything.
As far as the quote too that you were talking about, working at 2 a.m., this is one of those things, Mike, that you had referenced, said, I hope that some things do change as far as after this, from the lessons that we've learned. One of the things that I think will change is the realization, especially for secondary, high school teachers specifically, I'm talking about, that there is flexibility in schedules, the way that the schedules are created. The schedules that, for our elementary kids seem to, at least for the most part, work, as far as this type of, you go to school 8 a.m. and you end at 2 p.m., whatever it might be, as far as the schedule there. For a high school student, the flexibility of having flex days where they don't attend some days and some days they do, or they can or not, those kinds of things, where you give the options that where you might work during the day or do internships or do some kind of combination of a couple of different things. And then your most productive hours as far as schooling could be way late at night, and that's
Mm-hmm.
totally okay because we've actually created the environment where that is a possibility, and that's already being done. I think at several different, just like in pockets, as far as some people, some leaders have taken that on and said, let's create some flexible types of scheduling where our students can take advantage of this for the reasons that I'm just describing, whether it be working a job or internships or whatever it is that they need to do, or they're just not very productive at 8 o'clock in the morning. And so that this has to be, this is a better type of thing. So I think this is one of the things that we will see this have an effect for future years.
And if we don't, shame on us.
Yes.
I mean, honestly.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I did a live stream with some folks on Thursday afternoon. It's actually on the Participate YouTube channel now, related to the there's this initiative being done by a company called PolyUp. They're a math coding platform. It's really kind of cool. They're doing this thing called the US Challenge. It's an initiative to kind of mitigate the learning loss that's going to happen in math over the summer by delivering some really cool programming. And we were talking about kind of almost this exact thing, that we need to see this as an opportunity in some ways. And we all hate using the word opportunity, in this context because of, I don't know if I have to explain it, but the fact is that this was the kick in the ass, maybe, that the education systems around the world, and in particular in North America, maybe needed to say, listen, we're doing a lot of things wrong. And teachers are the ones that are making up for it by being, awesome. But we can make some changes here, and hopefully like class sizes, like listen, if getting rid of testing and class sizes are two things that came out of this that changed, that would be a gigantic, monumental education system win, right?
I'll just take testing out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
class sizes, that's a whole nother battle. But
right, but they're going to change. Like when kids go back to school, maybe even in September, the class sizes are going to be smaller. It's at least in Ontario, we know that they're going to be smaller. They're going to be like 21, 24.
So do you have the staffing to do that? I mean, I don't know if we have.
Listen, that means we just got to hire more teachers, and that's not a bad thing either.
But are there?
Right.
I mean, I would say at least in the rural areas of Nebraska, like we don't have the teachers knocking on our door.
Hey, there's lots of teachers in Ontario working at McDonald's.
Are there? Okay.
So we'll send them. We've talked about that on the podcast. I mean, it's impossible to find a teaching job in Ontario. We have tons of teachers that aren't teaching, and are dying to, that have
funding is the
teaching
biggest
degrees.
question.
Yeah,
and that's another issue.
Even in Ontario, which is exactly what you guys just had a big battle about that. Where
we did. Yeah, they just signed contracts last week. I think all this.
Oh, good.
All the deals are done. So
the concepts that they were that your unions were fighting for are the exact same things that we fight for, which are we're trying to keep class sizes to some manageable amount. Melissa, I taught at a school that was tiny, like what you're describing. I taught a couple of different ones, and I know exactly what you're talking about, where there literally is a budget line where the superintendent will come up. I was a union negotiator. He will just show you the number and go, this is how much the state is giving us.
Right.
This is how much we're expending. There is no room for hiring other people, bringing more things in, giving you a raise. And when you look at those numbers, you can't argue with that superintendent. It's like he actually literally doesn't have the funds to be able to go ahead and do the things that we're just talking about, as far as increasing class size or whatever it might be. Even at a bigger districts like the one that Audrey and I are working at, it's still, when you add a few different teachers to each of the different, let's say a grade level or whatever it might be, it makes a big impact on the total budget of moving forward as far as the schools, especially if the state isn't in the federal government's like minimal amounts that they're giving us, but that the state and local funds are being able to go ahead and contribute to us. Is like there's just a certain amount of money in the pot, unfortunately. I mean, and that's why I'm interested. When I saw those classrooms in Europe, and then there's like 12 kids in a class, it's so freaking laughable. It's like what? That's not gonna happen.
And funding, maybe
like
funding gets increased to a person.
I think
I just made the funniest joke in the world.
That was hilarious, Washburn.
School districts are worried actually about their funding actually decreasing a bunch because of this whole thing, because money is being funneled around to different things. They're taking it away from education, and so next year our budgets are going to be cut even more. So
that's I didn't even think about that, as we have to divert money towards all of these other things that are already, I mean, we've already pushed out funds, checks, and whatever it might be, and then there's all of this money that needs to be spent on whatever, the vaccines, the protection, care for all the people, obviously our frontline workers. And then where the hell's the rest of the money? And then our economy is like going like this. It's like, oh God. I mean, there's going to be some things for education down the road. It's just not going to look very pretty. It's a realization that as far as in the United States, I don't think it is. What do you think as far as in Southeast, Diane? What do you think about? Yeah,
it's bad.
I would say that the funding. I mean, because you guys are the same as. I mean, I think all the states in the United States, where basically we rely so heavily on our state and local funding to basically pick up the biggest part of the bill. That federal funding is a freaking joke as far as the overall, amount of money. Sorry, we had a U.S. talk there, Mike.
Yeah. In Kentucky, the way the formula, the funding formula works, it was revamped in the 90s to be more what they say fair. But really what it is the more affluent your district is, the fewer funds you get from the state level, because then you're expected to pull in your local taxes. And I'm very blessed that I work in the district that is affluent, which is awesome. But that just means we get less money from the state than a district that gets a whole bunch of money from the state, but might not be using it appropriately. And I don't know, it's tricky, but regardless of the funding formula, we're all going to get less next year.
Yeah.
Oh God. Something to look forward to.
That's why I'm retiring, guys. 92 days.
Oh, congrats.
Not that anyone's counting. But one thing I did want to bring up.
For the record, you're absolutely counting.
What? Yes.
You're absolutely
Every morning I ask Alexa, what day is it? Because I can't ever remember. And then I say, and how many days till August 1st? And she always tells me. But I did want to say something about what Glenn said, because even if we could hire other people or additional people, I've always complained I've been the director of technology for almost 20 years. And I've always complained that people don't think about the extraneous costs that come with that, not just the salary, but
devices.
you got another person. So there's another $1,000 machine, or you've got to put another phone handset in a classroom or whatever, or in a space. And,
it's a smart board.
Another smart board, another whatever. It's easy for people to just say, well, we'll just hire 4 more teachers to cut the slack. But then you have to think about the extraneous costs that are involved too.
Great point.
Yeah, I mean, you have some aircraft carriers you could probably sell and still take care of business if you needed to. So, right, lefty in me.
He's going after the defense budget, I guess.
Yeah, I would totally go after your defense budget. You could win world wars many times over, and with half your army.
Okay, here's a little bit of truth on that. My husband actually works for the Department of Defense.
Wow.
And he works at the GE aircraft engine plant here in the greater Cincinnati area. And because there's not much air traffic right now, like they're having to lay off people there. Not in his company because he works for the government, but at GE where they make the aircraft engines, they're having to lay off people. It's not good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wild.
Yep.
Oh boy. Let's
What else you
switch
got for
gears.
us?
Yeah, next
that was
What's
question.
that.
I don't think
was
you knew what
hoping
you were
we were
getting
gonna,
into.
I thought we were gonna end on an optimistic tone. We're gonna be there's gonna be changes. It's
No more funding.
No.
Brutal. Face-to-face teaching is hard. Even for experts and
Shut my window.
people who are doing it well. But teaching online is very different than teaching face-to-face.
Mhm.
So I guess Audrey, you have classes. You're an actual classroom teacher, yeah?
I am not.
Oh,
I'm
who is?
I'm
Are
a,
any of
I'm
us
a
actual
coach.
classroom
It's
teachers?
Melissa.
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 Thank God we actually have a teacher on staff, like an actual
A teacher on an education podcast. Who's
Imagine
weird?
that.
Who would've
Melissa, you
thought
can
that?
never get a
Never leave.
promotion.
No.
Never quit. You have just for us.
You could not pay me enough money to be a principal, a superintendent. What those, God's gift to, by the way, National Principals Day today.
That's
Yes.
right.
Slight segue. I want to give it a shout out to my
Shout
principal
out.
because he's super awesome. And he's ridiculous too, and I love him. But he announced yesterday that he was going to run a half marathon. I think it's next week in dedication to our senior class.
Oh,
He's not training or anything. I mean,
Just
he's
running
just
it.
gonna
He's just gonna go for it.
he's
That's
just
gonna
gonna
hurt.
go and
13
see what
miles?
happens.
Yeah.
And
13
he's gonna
miles later.
Facebook update us, and I'm planning on probably just like bringing popcorn and eating at the finish line and laughing at him
Imagine him roll in.
because that's what he would expect me to do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, talk about someone who's just there for kids, who is just
That's
willing
awesome.
to. There's nothing that we can do about their graduation, and he is just reaching and doing whatever he can to bring a smile to their faces. So we're going to see this big 6'4" guy run 13.1 miles next
awesome.
week.
That's
So
awesome.
happy
I love it.
Andy Cronin, happy Principal's Day. All right. Okay, back to this teacher thingy.
What's that in
So
kilometers?
We don't know, Mike.
We don't know.
approximately
26?
87
Want me to
miles.
ask Siri?
No.
Not 87.
I think it's 20 kilometers.
Mark Otter's watching. He might be able to
25,
do the math
30,
in his head.
somewhere in that.
He's a transplanted Canadian, actually, but he's probably been North Carolina too long that he's all mile all the time now. Mark Otter, formerly from Nova Scotia. You can't take out the Nova Scotia from people though. It sticks with you.
It's like their blood.
It is in their blood. So what are we
Okay.
doing? What?
Oh, research-based.
Yes.
Research-based techniques. Well, I'm a big self-determination theory person. Give me some high, chicks at me high, and I'm a happy camper. And they're all about those researchers are all about choice and autonomy and getting kids and just people ownership in what they're learning. So what I'm doing is the same thing that I have done for years in my classes. It's just online, but they do their choice projects and their inquiry projects. So the seniors, my college comp students, so they're also college students, and they're doing inquiry projects, just whatever they want to write. So I've got a couple short stories.
Mm.
I have a couple research papers on coronavirus. One was about the financial impact of coronavirus in the stock market, which I mean, just like
Yeah. That sounds good.
I was like, this is really
Intense.
good. But honestly, just some of the best writing that I've seen from them. descriptive essay on John Deere tractors, because that's what the kids going into is John Deere mechanics. It
That's
just
awesome.
really great stuff. And then the juniors, it's similar but not quite. So they're doing multi-genre projects. So they can choose whatever they want to research, and then they write 3 different styles, 3 different genres. So they could write, you know, a lot of them have written journals, some have done graphic novels, and topics, there again, topics range from the sinking of the Titanic, Trail of Tears, you know, some heavy stuff, but, you know, there's some kind of fun stuff in there too. So I've actually seen some of my students' best work just from these choice projects, and most of them, I'm not saying that they're all doing it because it's a choice project, or if it's just that our probably so many teachers have built relationships and that, but not most of the students, I mean, I would say probably 85-ish% are done or close to done with their projects.
That's awesome.
That's
So
fantastic news.
Choice is choice is the operative word here, I think.
Yeah, 100, whether it's choice of pacing, choice of topic, choice of genre, doesn't mean that kids have to choose everything.
Right.
But give them a couple of choices of this or this, and you can do assignment A and then B, or you could do assignment B. I mean, sometimes even just a little choice like that can make a huge difference. And I think that that's really, not to say the O word, but something that we have learned from this experience, that, you know what, we don't need to have a new assignment every day that the kids have to do during that period and turn it in tomorrow. Let's let them practice some time management and practice some planning. And yeah, it's going to be messy sometimes, but I just think there's so much that we can learn from having more flexibility, especially at the secondary level. I cannot speak for the primary teachers because, again, those are God's angels. But at the secondary level, expecting kids to do 7 or 8 classes day in, day out, and then go practice football for 3 hours, and then and the amount of traveling that my kids do is ridiculous, because our conference schools are on average at least 2 hours away.
Yeah.
So
they be on a bus for hours afterwards. Yeah.
You just can't expect kids to have homework done. If you give them an hour of math homework at night, they're not going to get it done if they went to a basketball game at the conference school that's 2 hours away.
Right.
And bless their hearts, some of them do. I mean, some of them do it with Wi-Fi on the bus, and I don't know how they do it, because I can't even grade papers when I'm on the bus sponsoring kids. I don't know how they do pre-calc.
Yeah.
What about at the elementary, Audrey? That's the one that always concerns me the most. If we end up doing virtual learning, distance learning next fall for even a short period of time, let's just say we were still doing it another month or something like that. That's the biggest concern for me, is I have 2 elementary kids at home, and I'm looking at what they're doing, and it's what people can do. I mean, as far as it's what their teachers could put together, the best that they could put together in this short amount of time, you know?
Right.
But now that we have some time, I'm talking about the summer, have you seen some things that you're like, okay?
I think, the first thing that I really believe our elementary teachers are going to need to do is hone in on the hardcore standards that really actually need to be taught. There's no way that we can expect all of the standards to be met, even when we're face to face. So I think if we can really hone in on hardcore standards that we are going to report on, then that will help us kind of guide those things. But then also what Melissa was saying, with choice. We're doing personalized learning with my 5th grade this year, and those kids transitioned into distance learning almost flawlessly. They were so used to being able to have choices in like what they were learning or how they're showing their learning, and learning from their teachers. Their teachers were already recording themselves and posting it in Schoology, so kids could, rehear what the mini lesson was for that day, or like pause and take notes or whatever. So that was already happening in our 5th grade, and I know it can absolutely happen in our lower grades as well. I think the thing that's really gonna be hard is those kindergartners and those 1st graders. I think, Mike, you said that you're really, as a teacher, you're really communicating with the parents. You're talking with the parents with this.
Right.
And they're taking over and then, giving that information to the kids. So, I mean, that's tough. I don't really know the answer to that one yet.
The toughest part will be is if we don't get to go back to our school buildings in August, is the new kindergartners.
Oh, totally. Yes, I was just talking about that with our kindergarten.
Yeah. What a nightmare.
I'm not even going to bring that up to Cheryl.
No, I didn't. No.
Yeah,
I
teachers are progressive of that.
My confidence level that Ontario schools will be back in school in September is high, to be honest. Canada is handling the virus quite a bit better than the United States, and
go figure.
and universal health care helps. So I feel like there's going to still need to be some of the same systematic changes. I think that class sizes will need to be reduced. I am pretty confident that we have the teachers available to hire to kind of compensate for that. I actually brought up to Cheryl the other day that I'm not super confident we have the rooms, like the actual physical space.
Right.
To add, when you add more,
if you have to wear those hats with the rulers sticking out on you,
right? So the next industry that's going to experience a gigantic boom in business is the portable building business. Right. Mm-hmm. These modular classrooms, right? They're all over the place in Ontario because we've notoriously built our schools too small. And so like every elementary school has like 2 or 3 portables at least. And so welcome to a world where at least for the next 3 or 4 years your field is basically a zoo of portables, because you have to have classes that are in the 20s or low 20s. Right. At the most. Remember, these portables aren't huge either. You can probably sit 15 or 20 people in it with social distancing. Right. Not 24, not 30, certainly not like the same size as a classroom. So I envision school fields full of portables in Ontario, and all of these teachers who have been waiting to be hired that are languishing on our what we would call our supply lists, our substitute teacher lists, getting full-time jobs, contracts, finally, to be honest. And I see us back in school in September, thank God.
Yes.
Because, an intake of kindergarten students without a teacher, or without a teacher that they see, right, would be freaking believable. Like I can't even imagine what that looks like. And
oh gosh,
it's so bad. It's such a sad way, to be honest. It's such a sad way to start your school career, like for the kids.
Right. Even if we do get to go back, working in an elementary school, I see those teachers and how close they get to those kids, or they're hugging them, or they're helping, there are kindergartners who are crying all the time, and I'm like hugging them, like, it's okay, honey, I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. And that is just something that we do in the elementary. We are very, we take care of those kids. We love them, and we can't do that. And so we're going to have to be like 6 feet away, like, it's okay. Like, this is great for me. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Patting from a distance,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
not even like the remote
Hi.
high five, the Pam and Jim high five.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well,
Right?
I also think something that, like, if we don't get to go back, or people do move courses more online, is something that we need is UX UI design theory.
Mm.
I just think of like course design and, walking my students or my teachers through how to set up their course so that it is
Yes.
easy and understandable for their students, and how so it's not so many clicks to get
Yes.
to whatever they need.
Right.
So
And oftentimes
important.
they would look at me like, well, but it's easier for me if I just put it in this way. But yeah, it might be easier for you, but
For
it's
you, but
not easier for your
it's not.
students.
Right.
And if it's going to be difficult for them, they're going to throw their hands up and they're not going to do it. So we need to make it easy for them. We need to think about the user and the interface that you're giving them and make that experience a positive one.
Mm-hmm.
So that design theory is, something that we've never been taught in, but it's very important.
Totally.
One of the
Well,
things before we go ahead and cut off here, Mike, that I heard today that I had not heard of, and maybe we'll go ahead and bring it onto the podcast too, is the discussion of what if we don't start we don't start school at all in the fall, being that we're not really fully trained. This is not the optimal way of being able to deliver content, etc. You can just keep going. There's an equity issue. There's a bunch of discussion going on, and this is the first time that I'm actually hearing it kind of at higher levels, where you're talking about state levels, that people are discussing if we just delayed the start of the school year entirely
Right.
until late fall, October-ish
October.
type of thing, and then continue the school year through early, basically for
July.
us, it would be through June/July or whatever it might be.
Yep.
That to me, I was like, when I heard that, I was like, oh my God. I don't know. I don't know exactly how I feel about that just yet, but I guess in the end, whatever is optimal, number one, for the safety of the kids, but also if we can't educate our students in a great way in this format, for whatever reason, the limitations are there, whether it be technology needs or it be training needs, in general, then maybe we should not be doing it, until we actually have a time that we have it. So it'll be a good discussion, I think, Mike, as far as for, in the future here, as decisions are made and people are like, and I think it's completely 100% United States is going to be, every state is going to be different. There's going to be some of us in the Midwest that we're all going to do a certain specific thing. We're just going to band together and do this. There's going to be states where, like in Nebraska, where there's hardly any cases and it's been contained in specific places, and boom, you're ready to go ahead and go. You know what I mean? And then there's going to be places like New York where their decisions are way different than anybody else's.
Way different.
So really, it's going to be a lot of different things kind of going on at the exact same time.
Yeah.
I think that is where we end it.
Awesome.
This has been fun. Thanks everyone for watching. Couple reminders. So this is every Friday night at 8:00. There's lots going on this
7
channel.
Central.
Oh, here we go. This is gonna be a thing now. There's lots going on this channel. If you're interested, we're doing the Gone Home game study. That's on Thursdays at what time? 3 p.m. The US Challenge live stream is Thursdays at 2 p.m. Steve Isaacs and I are also doing a stream every morning at 9 a.m. on this channel. So if you're not following this Twitch channel, go ahead and do that now. It's that little heart thing at the top. You'll get notified when we go live, and that's always good. The pod comes out usually every Wednesday. Subscribe to that. You can click links. There's lots of ways to click links and find us if you're following us on Twitter. But go listen to the podcast. Go read the blog. The three ladies that joined us today, including Audrey and Diana, and some new teammates, which is exciting. So this has been great. Audrey's first blog was today. And it was fabulous. So go read that on educationpodcast.com. click on the blog link and you can read that. Appreciate everybody who commented and watched. And I think that's it. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for joining
Bye,
us.
everybody.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Enjoyed it.
Farewell.
Auf Wiedersehen.